Thibault Verny, 59, has been appointed as the new president of the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors, while continuing to serve as Archbishop of Chambéry in southeastern France. On Saturday, July 5, Pope Leo XIV made his first public move to address one of the most devastating issues facing the Catholic Church worldwide: sexual abuse within the clergy. His choice was not symbolic, it was strategic, direct, and bold. Thibault Verny, a 59-year-old French archbishop, will now lead the Vatican's Commission on Sexual Abuse, without stepping down from his current post in Chambéry. But more than a promotion, this appointment sent a clear message. The age of silence is over. The Vatican Commission was originally established by Pope Francis in 2014 as part of a broader attempt to address the abuse scandals that have shaken the Church in numerous countries. These scandals have severely undermined the Church's moral authority, led to billion-dollar lawsuits, and forced the resignation of several bishops around the globe. Verny has stated his commitment to strengthening the Church's protection protocols. "We will promote equitable sharing of resources so that every part of the Church, regardless of geography or circumstance, can uphold the highest standards of protection," he said in an official statement. He replaces Cardinal Sean O'Malley, the former Archbishop of Boston, who had chaired the commission since its inception. Now 81, O'Malley had been serving past the traditional retirement age for bishops. While many survivors praised his early efforts, the commission has struggled over the years with internal resignations, criticism, and organizational setbacks. In 2023, a prominent Jesuit priest and papal advisor publicly resigned from the commission, citing deep concerns about its lack of structure and transparency. Verny, who was appointed to the commission by Pope Francis in 2022, had already led several major protection initiatives within the French Church. His leadership came in response to staggering revelations: over 300,000 estimated victims of clerical abuse in France alone over recent decades. But Verny didn't just acknowledge the crisis. He acted. He created reporting hotlines. He enforced internal investigations. He set behavioral standards. And now, he has been asked to do the same on a global scale. Just hours after his appointment, Verny's first words were as clear as they were uncompromising. "We will promote the equitable distribution of resources so that all parts of the Church, regardless of geography or circumstance, can uphold the highest standards of protection." That statement signaled the Commission's new directive: no parish, anywhere in the world, will be allowed to use lack of funding as an excuse for inaction. Cardinal O'Malley, who had carried the weight of the Commission since its creation, praised the appointment. "Archbishop Verny is a collaborative leader," he said, "fully committed to advancing global safeguarding efforts and ensuring that the Church offers the highest level of safety to all under its care." But for many, this is not just a continuation, it's a rupture. Verny is expected to audit dioceses around the globe, report directly to the Pope, enforce stronger penalties for negligence, and most importantly, return to victims what was long denied: a voice, dignity, and a path toward justice. It wasn't just a symbolic gesture, nor was it a vague statement buried in a forgotten homily. What Pope Leo XIV did behind the quiet curtains of the Vatican marked a real and irreversible turning point. Just days after appointing the new president of the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors, French Archbishop Thibault Verny, a man known for his firm and discreet leadership in France, the Pope did something no previous pontiff had ever dared to do so directly. He demanded transparency. On a sweltering Monday morning in Rome, a letter was dispatched from the Holy See to every episcopal conference in the world. Its contents were brief, but their weight was unmistakable. Every diocese must present a full, detailed, and documented report on all cases of sexual abuse recorded over the past 5 decades. No exceptions, no legal filters, no time for diplomatic adjustments. The instructions were clear, and the deadline was strict: 60 days. The reports were not to be sent to nuntiates or internal departments, but directly to the Pontifical Commission, now led by Verny. The Pope wanted names. He wanted files. He wanted the archives that had, for decades, been sealed behind doors locked by silence and convenience. Inside the Vatican, the order sent shockwaves. Some leaders attempted to soften the wording, others warned of public scandal. But Leo XIV did not retreat. In fact, it was he himself who added, by hand, a final sentence to the letter: "Truth must come out of the sacristies. Where there is omission, there is repetition." The phrase spread like wildfire through ecclesiastical halls. In Poland, 3 bishops met with legal advisors. In Brazil, an archbishop tried to delay the release of data, citing lack of resources. In the United States, dioceses began unlocking confidential archives at unprecedented speed. Quietly, the Church's internal structures began to shake. Behind that move was not only a call for justice but a kind of atonement. Leo XIV understood that the scandals of recent years were not just crimes. They were open wounds that had stained the spiritual heart of the Church. And now, instead of hiding the scars, he was ordering them to be cleansed. One by one, even if they burned. In Colombia, victims ignored for decades began to speak out. In Manila, a young woman delivered a letter to her parish, one she had written in childhood. In Boston, journalists started cross-referencing data, uncovering long-buried connections, and publishing what was once unspeakable. For the first time, the Church was not just apologizing, it was opening its vaults. Global pressure intensified. Some headlines spoke of hope, others of fury. But within the Vatican, Pope Leo XIV remained silent. While the world speculated about scandal, he was already preparing the next move. And that next move had nothing to do with paperwork. In the early hours of July 16th, a new order was issued, this time not to dioceses but to seminaries. It was a direct command. All centers for priestly formation were to undergo inspections by external commissions composed of Catholic laypeople, psychologists, and independent legal experts. The message was unmistakable. The silence inside seminaries was over. For decades, these institutions created to form men of faith had become, in many countries, environments of fear, repression, or worse, complicity. Now, Leo XIV wanted transparency from the root. In a small seminary in Belgium, the inspector knocked on the door before morning mass had even begun. In Argentina, 2 nuns were appointed as part of the evaluation committee. In Mexico, the rector of one of the oldest theological institutions resigned before the inspectors even arrived. There were no threats, no cameras, but there was a new feeling in the air, as if a heavy curtain had been pulled back for the first time in centuries. When asked informally about the reason behind such an unprecedented inspection, the Pope gave a disarming response. A man is not deformed in the pulpit. He is deformed in the silence of formation. That phrase, spontaneous, unfiltered, became the symbol of a radical shift. In just 2 weeks, more than 60 seminaries were visited. Some revealed order, others, chaos. And for the first time, testimonies from seminarians were taken seriously, without fear of retaliation. In an anonymous letter read aloud by the new commission, one young man wrote, "I entered here to serve God, but I was taught to fear men." Kind of truth, once buried under decades of complicity, was now taking shape. And what Pope Leo XIV was building wasn't a public crusade. It was an internal reconstruction. No microphones, no palace, just a decision to break the cycle of diseased formation that had rooted itself in the Church's deepest corners, and little by little, the walls began to speak. Beyond demanding transparency and inspections, Pope Leo XIV understood that true reform had to begin at the very heart of the Church's leadership, the bishops and ecclesiastical superiors themselves. It wasn't enough to expose abuse. Those in the highest positions had to be fully committed to truth and justice. In an unprecedented move, the Pope mandated that all bishops must renew their vows of pastoral responsibility before the world, not through ceremonial rituals, but through a public annual declaration reaffirming their commitment to protect the faithful, especially the most vulnerable. But this wasn't just about words. Leo XIV also established that any accusation against a member of the clergy must be treated with the highest level of urgency, through independent investigations, and that any bishop who failed to act would be removed from office immediately. The impact was like thunder. Some bishops resisted, claiming their local autonomy was being violated. But the Pope was unequivocal. Protecting the innocent stands above any authority. The Church could no longer close its eyes or cover up internal failures. Through this policy, Leo XIV made it clear, silence and inaction would no longer be tolerated. The leadership of the Church would be held to the highest moral standard, under direct and public scrutiny. And for the victims, this wasn't just policy, it was a message of hope. For the first time, the Church wasn't just admitting its failures, it was prepared to act with justice. If this story moved you, and if you believe the world needs to hear what's happening behind the Vatican walls, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We want to know what you think about these radical changes. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Subscribe and stay with us for more exclusive content on the hidden truths and transformations shaping the Catholic Church today.